Am I on? Yeah, there you go. Call the meeting to order for the budget hearing. Roll call.
Copeland,
Here.
McCain, Wertz. Oh, sorry, absent. Hyen. Johnson. Here. Rust.
Here.
Hanfelder. Hanfelder.
Here.
Trent.
Here.
This is a time for public comment with regard to the annual budget that Nancy put together. And Mary? Mary put it together. Okay. All right. So, okay. Okay. So if there are any questions, we know that we have the expert here to answer them. So any comments? The budget hearing will come to a close. We have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
And a second. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we will call the regular meeting to order and start with roll call.
Copeland,
Here.
McCain. Here. Wertz is absent. Hyen,
Here.
Johnson. Here. Rust,
Here.
Hanfelder,
Hanfelder?
Trent.
Here.
Say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now's the time for public comment.
I see no public comment online either.
We'll have an action item here. Need a motion to approve the fiscal year 22 budget.
So move.
Need a second?
Second.
Okay. A roll call on that?
Copeland,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
McCain. Yes. Wertz, absent. Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanfelder. Trent.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes. Updates, budget health update.
Yes, good evening. As tradition, I will walk through our revenues and expenditures. These are reported as of May 31, and as you know, these are backlogged a bit due to process. But local revenues topped budget with this report due to the large corporate personnel property replacement tax payment in May. We are still projecting the same state government revenues. We appear to have gained just a little bit of ground on the tuition and fees piece at approximately $2,300. Well, below budget, tuition and fee revenue does continue to move in a positive direction. So that's a good thing. Indirect cost transfers were recorded at almost $89,000 in May. We did exceed our fiscal year 21 budgeted amount for this May activity. On the expenditure side, as final purchases are started to be recorded for fiscal year 21, we remain well within budget. We are still projecting revenues over expenses of over $2 million. And just as an FYI, overall expenses are down $1.6 million as compared to May 31 of last year. So, you know, I'm really proud of the team. We did have a little bit of help, obviously, from our CARE dollars and obviously COVID, but, you know, COVID wasn't a positive thing, but it did help us a little bit with budget, but also just kind of reorienting and refocusing on where we're going to invest our dollars as a campus team. And I think this past year's budget reflects the attitude and perspective we want to take moving forward. So I just want to thank Mary and her team, the administrative team, and really everyone on campus for their diligence and their focus on keeping us moving forward in a positive way. So that concludes my budget health update.
Want an enrollment update?
Sure, I'll continue. So enrollment continues to look good. We are down just under 8% in credit students, but we are up just a tad in campus credit hours. And the one area that we still find some significant growth is we're up just over 10% in the online credit students and up about 17% in online credit hours. So that is an area that we feel will continue to, I think, yield some positive results for us as a team. And that's where we're looking at some different types of platforms to try to continue to support students who are looking for that level of flexibility. So we'll continue to update you as a board on a weekly basis as we receive these updates, but we're hoping that the trends continue and perhaps we're up a little bit in the fall. So we'll have a pretty hard push the next month now that we're getting close, believe it or not, to the fall semester. So any questions on that?
I was curious to know about the pharmacy tech. Anyone have a report on that?
I think Dr. Lane could, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we interviewed and are about to make an offer to an individual who we think is going to be terrific. That interview selection process took a little longer than we thought, so they will spend the fall semester fleshing out that program and working on the accreditation piece with the goal of students in the classroom in January. Any other questions?
Well, I was going to ask, related to enrollment, like, do we have any idea how many undecided students there are out there? Or I know it's a big guess. But what's our marketing data look like in that?
In terms of sort of on, like students who may have an interest in Lewis and Clark, but have not chosen Lewis and Clark. I don't know if that's something that Brett, you could help us out with, but I know that there is a pretty aggressive strategy to try to recruit, but. Yeah.
So I don't have the specific number that you're looking for, but what we do have in our CRM recruit piece is the ability to track those who apply to the college. So it tracks them throughout that, what they call the funnel. So we know who has indicated interest, who has submitted an application, and anybody who has fallen off the wagon at any point in that enrollment cycle. So what it also allows us to do is go back and track those people and then communicate directly with them with the contact information that they've provided to us. So I mean, if I'm making a guess, I think that's, in the hundreds as opposed to thousands that have indicated interest, either attempted or started an application, but then stopped or did not do anything after they submitted their application. Does that help you out?
Yeah, I just wondered if, is that information that we would have had in years past?
No, it's not. It's
Yeah.
absolutely not. In fact, I point out too that this CRM recruit, we're kind of in our first full recruiting cycle with it. So this is all new data for us to review. Absolutely.
Thanks, Brett.
The only other thing I would mention is that we're going to doing a push for Summerfest at the end of this month, which is something new we've never done before either, in anticipation of the fall semester.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you.
Next is the Omnibus Agenda. I need a motion to approve that unless the trustee wishes to pull one or more items out to vote on separately. No items are wanted to be pulled. We need a motion to approve.
So move.
Second. Okay. Any discussion or question with regard to the Omnibus Agenda? Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanfelder.
Yes.
Next, action items, approval of grant or sponsored contract opportunities. Need a motion to approve. Second? Okay. Any discussion? Call for vote.
Copeland,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Hanfelder.
Yes.
Need a motion for the organization restructure. Item B under action items. Need a motion to approve.
So move.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes. Resolution 22-1, reduction in force and honorable dismissal of full-time staff. Need a motion to approve.
So move.
Need a second? Need a second? Okay, Brenda. Any discussion?
I just have a comment. Back when Dr. Traska was hired, it was with the expectation that, as any good executive would do, he would come in and take a hard look at the college. And he and his team have done that. And I would commend him and them for their courage in those efforts.
I appreciate that, and thank you. I think the team appreciates that as well. I think I want to make a comment as well. It's our understanding as well that the team that was part of the campus catering all have accepted, I think, other than one individual at this point, an opportunity with Bella Milano. So that was a very important part of this agreement. So I want to make that clear. And I, again, want to thank the team for their hard work in helping shape this, especially Dr. Artis for her hard work behind the scenes. So thank you.
Any other comment? Call for the vote?
Copeland,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes. Number 7, discussion items.
Yeah, so the first item, Dr. Lane's going to talk just a little bit about Faculty and Service Week coming up in just about a month. Thank you.
Yes. So the faculty come back on August 16th through the 20th is their first week back. And that's when many of the departments have committee meetings. They do prep to get ready for their courses. We have an InService with all of the faculty in the Commons on that Tuesday morning. And we will introduce some new faculty to the group. And we also have some new staff who are going to be doing presentations. We've got the new diversity and inclusion person when they're hired. They will do a 20-minute presentation, as will the new mental health counselor. And we have a new instructional designer who will do a presentation to the group. So that will be kind of the highlight of the week. It's always a great time. It's the only time in August and in January where all the faculty are in a room together. And we invite staff and we welcome staff to this event too. Questions?
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
And next item is by Kevin. So,
Yes, I just wanted to hit a couple of the highlights, so to speak, in the ICCTA annual convention. The first thing was actually before the convention, we had on Thursday, we had an executive committee meeting just to do some information sharing and that. And then Friday was, all day Friday was trustee training. We heard about the Open Meetings Act, Freedom of Information, labor and contract law, ethics, and the fiduciary responsibility of trustees. And then in the evening of Friday, we had the what's called the ICCTA's president's reception. And there were actually an awards banquet. There were 19 awards presented. And I had the privilege to get to meet and converse with Dr. Moser, who was our nominee for the full-time faculty award. And it was really gratifying that I was able to be there to support him. He did not win, but there were some great candidates. And then, and that actually, that was quite a long award ceremony. I think it was almost 2.5 hours. And then on Saturday, it was actually the ICCTA Board of Representatives annual meeting. We adopted the new mission and vision statement, talked about government relations and updates on various pending legislation. Had the election of ICCTA officers and remarks by the new president, John Looney, and our executive director also made remarks, Jim Reed. And I guess the one thing that on that, probably it's been in the newspapers enough, everybody knows, but with the America Rescue Plan, there's $40 billion, 90% of which is allocated for higher education. So I guess that's good news for us. That's all I have to report. Are there any questions?
thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Landscape contract. Did you want the landscape
For some time, I've been kind of interested in the landscape that we have going on here at the college and other locations. So about a year ago, I asked Lori if she would give me a copy of the contract, and she did. It was about a 3-page, looked like quite a pretty weak contract, didn't establish anything but an amount of money. And it appears that we exceed the amount for each year, probably within about 3 months. So July 30th is the anniversary, 2nd year, and we have 1 more year on the contract. I thought if we could just talk about a way to go ahead and within the next year establish some bidding to where we could perhaps shave a few dollars off of our expenses. So that was the reason I wanted to put it on the agenda today. Other than that, I'm sure we have the lawns mowed in good shape. I was curious as to how Lewis does the mowing and the timing on it is what I was wondering about. Is someone in charge of telling him when to mow, or does he just do that on his own? So is there anyone that would know about that?
Had a little bit of background. So in the past, we had this service in-house. It's been, gosh, yeah, over 10 years ago, we had it in-house, and it was discovered that by bidding it and doing it with a third party, that there could be substantial savings. So it has been bid ever since then. Louise Landscaping has been the successful low qualified bid each time we have bid. We just bid, I guess it would have been 2 years ago. And just for clarity, I believe the contract ends at the end of August. When we bid this 2 years ago, we bid it with the ability to renew for 5 years. So at some point, if we want to go out and rebid, we have the flexibility to do that if we're not happy with the service being provided. So that's why we've set it up that way. So I can just say we've had great experience with Louise Landscaping. Ethan Brosh, who's our horticulture manager, oversees all of that, but I can't say he has to make Jose or, remind him that he needs to come mow. It is a part of their regular services. Of course, weather does become a factor at times, but we would definitely, when we did do the last bid, they were the low bid by about $100,000. Were there five bids? And they ranged from almost $500,000. I believe Jose's bid was somewhere in the $180,000 annual ballpark. And if when we go back and look at those bids, the last 3 years, there's no change in cost. Each of the other bidders, of course, had an increase for expected labor costs that would change. So we would not recommend making a change at this time. My other concern right now is just the cost of labor and the challenge of finding labor in the market right now. But I do just want to ask, I'm not sure what you meant by exceeding the cost of the contract. I just want to make sure I understand that. So.
I didn't quite understand that.
I thought you had made a comment at the beginning that we're exceeding the cost of our agreement with Louise Landscaping.
I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe I misunderstood. I don't.
So do we generally, is that generally what we pay each year? Is it 180,000 some?
Yeah, this next year I want to say is 187. If we renew, would be about 187,000.
And so we just say to them, keep everything in tip top shape. We don't say mow when, we don't like pay for every time they mow or whatever. We just say to them,
It's a
keep the
month,
grounds and everything.
right? And
we
it's this
expect you
camp.
to do this.
Yes,
We
yes.
don't pay them based on how many times they mow. And things
Correct,
like that.
correct. It is a flat cost. We did before I should add too, before we went out to bid this last time, we priced it and Ethan helped us with this, looking at could we do this in-house again? Because we wanted to have those numbers before we accepted any bids, but that bid was so much lower than the other ones, and, you know, having a really good working relationship with that vendor, it just wasn't going to make financial sense for us to make a change at that time, so.
So when we do have like a special event on campus or whatever, somebody probably says to them, this is going on, just to make sure it looks nice. Do we pay extra for that then?
No, I would just say the only time we would have any extra service charges might be if we have a storm on campus and they would come and help us pick up limbs, which, you know, sometimes is also a part of an insurance claim as well, but it's all inclusive,
Does
so.
it include snow removal too?
No, he does do he's not doing it at all anymore.
Somebody else does that?
Yeah, so our crew, our maintenance team does all the snow removal on this campus, and then we have some contractual services at some of our other locations, so.
Right. So he's also doing like the Manny Jackson Center, and they're doing Nano Nelson and all that, right?
Right,
Includes
right.
all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori?
Yep.
Could you go ahead and do it's C, D, and E, establishment
Oh,
of co-sponsored event rates, campus operations, if you feel
Yep.
comfortable, you know. would you-
Absolutely.
Somebody just inform us, you know,
Sure.
tell us what's going on.
Sure. So
Thank
we,
you.
we just wanted to make the board aware. We receive numerous requests throughout the year to waive room rental fees. And there are a number of really good reasons to do that. But of course, there's also an expense related to the college in order to to operate these events and to host them on our campus. So our campus events team, Tina Russell and Chris Palda, have worked really hard to kind of identify what those true costs are to the college. And then we wanted to establish some criteria as to what might rise to the level of a co-sponsored event, so to speak. And so we just kind of wanted to make the board aware of that. As I shared with Mr. Hyan earlier in the week, we're constantly looking at our rental rates. We have currently right now, our structure is we have a private rental rate, a nonprofit rate, and then bringing forward this new co-sponsored rate. It would allow us to create some consistencies and fairness between organizations that requested and establishing those criteria of that, you know, it must be a nonprofit, that the event itself shouldn't be a revenue generating event. It should be connected somehow to the college's mission or to our strategic plan. And it should provide some sort of enhanced cultural or learning experience for our communities that we're serving. So those are kind of the criteria that we've established there. And so as we get these requests for, a reduction in a room rental fee, having this co-sponsored rate will allow us to, continue to partner with our community organizations, offer things that are in the benefit of our community, but also not at the expense, the whole expense of the college. So any questions related to that?
Yeah, I was wondering, that was a lot of information, so I have to admit, I didn't read it real thoroughly, but
Sure.
where would a wedding reception fall
A
into that?
private event.
What, it's
It
private?
would be considered a private event,
It's
yes.
private event,
Mhm.
okay. And would they be required to use Bella Milano as their caterer?
Yes.
So does this kind of fit into our concerns that we had in past meetings about giving things away, or,
Yes.
it clarified that, right?
Right.
This was
right.
an effort that, Lori and I talked and just wanted to kind of rethink it, just to create some consistency.
Yeah.
Because, it's very easy. I mean, somebody may contact me or Lori or a board member and say, hey, I want to do this or do that. And we need something that says, hey, we're willing to do that. But the co-sponsorship piece is where we can offset the investment they would have to make a little bit, but still we're able to cover our cost. And that's really all we want to do in those situations. So
All right.
D,
Yeah, if there's no other questions, then I'm going to turn this over. I've asked Chris Palda to kind of just provide you with a quick update of everything that's happening on campus over the summer months. As you know, it's a good time to try to get a lot of things done while the traffic is low. So Chris, I will turn it over to you.
Good evening. As Lori mentioned, summer is the best time for us to address many projects on campus. We don't see the traffic. It won't interrupt the instruction process. So summers are busy for operations. In addition to the discussion item that's already in the board material, I just wanted to highlight a few of these projects. Looking at first, the speed bump installation. This is something we talked about pre-COVID. It's a safety measure. We've noticed the long stretches when you enter campus, either on the north or the south end, there's that long straight stretch. It provides an opportunity for people to pick up speed. So we felt the speed bumps would be a great measure without having to involve the campus safety and have added personnel involved in tracking that. So we look to have those installed any day now. We're working with the weather to help that. Once the weather cooperates, we'll be looking at installing those. Then also earlier you had approved for the bid recommendation for the air purifier systems. There's 75 that we expect we will need. These will be primarily placed in like the main complex, Haskell Hall, Gilman Hall, areas on our campus where either the equipment just can't quite keep up with a more efficient filter, or we cannot, we're restricted in the amount of fresh air that we can bring in. So we will get those in plenty of time for the fall semester and have them in place for when the classes start. Oh, campus safety, back to campus safety. The building, if you came in on the north entrance, you noticed that there's a fabulous sign on the building. In addition to the sign that clearly identifies it, the building has new gutters, soffit, and siding. So it's had a little bit of a facelift. It looks much better. Moving down to deferred maintenance projects. These projects, they are moving. It's really slow. I talked to CDB project manager today, and they are almost nearly staffed to where they need to be to handle these projects. That's been the problem early on. So the turnaround time has just really been lagged. Our Mary and I joke about one of the projects. It was emergency deferred maintenance, and we're now at 3 years since it's been awarded. So it's a very slow process, but they are moving forward. And then the last project I wanted to highlight on is the Guaranteed Energy Savings Project. First, I have to apologize. I did not mention where this is focused on. This was on our Nelson campus. So Centrica Business Solutions came in. They did an energy audit, identified some measures to increase energy efficiency. And so what they do is they have to calculate that these will be guaranteed savings over a period of time. And so they've done that with this project. And then in addition, they have to come back every couple of years and recalculate and just check in to make sure that their original projections are meeting those goals. Do you have any questions about anything?
Yeah, I apologize. What campus or what area is this on?
The Nelson campus, N.O. Nelson.
N.O. Nelson, oh.
Mhm.
And those air purifier systems, are those like as part of the HVAC in the building, or are those in the classroom?
They're going to be individual. In fact, they're the size you could even have for your residential home. They cover 1,500 square feet. And I did mean to mention earlier when I was talking about them, through the bid process, we are saving about 40% on retail price of those. So we got a really good deal on those, and these will work really well for us.
Wait, what do they look like? Are they just like a box in the corner? Or?
Yeah, they're a box about this tall, like that. They're on wheels. They just sit them wherever you need to plug them in at, and they cover, like I said, they cover up to 1,500 square feet.
Yeah, I have a question on that. The main complex foundation repairs and waterproofing. Is that the project that we've been seeing for the last 2 years?
3 years. 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to waterproofing, I mean, water damage doesn't stop. It just gets worse and worse.
No, exactly.
I'm concerned we're digging a hole that the state of Illinois is not going to be able to dig us out of.
Today, we had a pre-bid meeting for that project. So that will go to CDB's board in August for approval that will go to September's board meeting for approval. CDB manages that entire process. And that's what's part of what's taken so long is we're on their time. When these projects were starting to be awarded back 3 years ago, they did not have the staff to handle these projects as far as any of the bid process, the design reviews, contract reviews. There's just, for example, the design review takes up to 5 weeks. Contract reviews take up to 90 days. So that's what's been holding us.
Where do they fit at, like in the government structure? Are they appointed by somebody or capital development?
They're at the state level. I don't really know more than that on that
Yeah.
side, but yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. We're ready to move on to the informational items.
And if there's any questions on any of those, we're certainly prepared to answer those, but all the details are in the board document, so let us know.
Yeah, I did have a question on 8C. We're talking about that happens to be where it falls on the large project that we're trying to get funding, $40 million or 37 and a half, whatever it is. But there was some discussion about trying to find out whether or not there was any matching funds required. Now, the report in 8C doesn't show any matching funds being required. So is that the conclusion?
As far as I understand there, and correct me anyone out there, I don't believe there's matching funds, but the project value was like 50 million and they were only going to provide 37 million. So we would have to come up with the rest. Am I off on that? Like we're not required to do any match. So yeah.
Everything we've been told to this point is that the college wouldn't have a match, but until we actually get to that awarding point, I couldn't say for sure. 37.5 million is what the estimate of the total project was
Okay.
at the time by AAIC. But I mean, I think as Mary could say, we're kind of in the back of our minds preparing for, the expectation of a match, but everything that has been shared with us to date is that it would be a fully funded project. But as Chris can speak to, all CDB projects do require that 25% match.
So it's a yes and a no.
Yeah, it's not a definitive answer, but we would just love to see the money awarded first and foremost, and then figure out if that's going to be a bridge we have to cross.
Yeah, maybe we could have a barbecue first.
Yeah.
Okay. If there are any questions on that, do we need to move to the executive team reports?
Sure. So we'll move through the executive team and other leadership, and they'll provide just a quick overview of their respective areas, starting with Dr. Lane.
Hi there. One of the things I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about InService is last academic year, the August and the January InService were virtual, held on Zoom. And we are planning for an in-person InService in August. So we're very excited about that. We also, with the help of Enrollment Services and the advisors who made these suggestions, we are starting soon, July, I think 19th, a late start summer, four-week summer gen ed courses. We've got biology, political science, and art, and one other that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. So we're excited about that, bringing in some additional enrollment. And if we get them here in the summer, then hopefully we can retain them and keep them in the fall. We also this summer, at the request of high schools and the folks working in our CEC centers, are offering some more gen ed courses at the CEC centers. So again, additional enrollment for summer. And we hope that once we get those students, some of these will be high school students, and that once we get them, we can keep them. We have ordered the additional BlendFlex equipment for classrooms, and it's starting to roll in from the vendors. And so our team on campus is ready to start getting that equipment installed, and we're going to have as many classrooms installed and ready to go for fall as possible. And what we don't get done by then, we'll just keep installing over the course of the semester. So yeah.
What exactly is that equipment?
Sure. And this has been a journey for us to figure out what the perfect equipment, and I thank Jeff Watson, and Ron Wall, his IT person. So most of the classrooms have a projector and a screen, and we've added big flat screen TVs in the classrooms. And then it kind of happenstance, Melissa Batchelor's here tonight, and she and Joel Hall developed, or not developed, but discovered something called the OWL, which is a 360 camera. It's really small. It can sit on a cart or on a table. And so we did some testing with faculty, and they really, really enjoyed the OWL. So, and it's much less expensive than some of the cameras and microphones we purchased for the 2 BlendFlex classrooms that we piloted last spring. So we've got a bunch of the OWLs ordered, and you can actually do a BlendFlex with just the OWL in the classroom. It's more ideal if you have this big screen TV, so that it's like when we're in here and Jay's got the folks on Zoom up on the screen. So with the OWL, they can see us and we can see the folks, the students who are at home. And the notion is access, for students, equity and access. You have a young child and the babysitter canceled that day, or you have car transportation issues, you can still go to class from home and you can toggle back and forth. And so I think it's going to really, really help us with not only enrollment, but retention and completion, because students will be able to have more access to their courses than they would otherwise. So BlendFlex up and running. We are still about ready to hire the pharmacy tech person. We're going to interview this Thursday 3 candidates for the music department faculty vacancy, and as well as dental. And I am happy to report, and I believe it's in this board book, that my replacement in the dean position has been hired. Dr. Michael Sunblad will start August 2nd, and I am ready to start training him and handing some stuff off to him. He's going to be a great addition to the college, so we're excited about that. I know Val Harris is here tonight. We've got an adult ed dashboard mover team. The adult ed data system and the college data system don't connect, and so we have a dashboard mover team working with some ICCB folks as well, because the adult ed system is kind of dictated and set up by ICCB. So we're hoping to have good good forward movement on that, so that we can have easier access to the adult ed data. And then competency-based education, again, waiting on that last approval from HLC for welding. But this summer, Melissa Batchelor, Travis Jumper, Sue Serwinski, and I have been attending, there's a series of 4, it's called competency-based camp. And there's a lot of hands-on. And so I know early childhood is the next program we'll look at for competency-based. So we are kind of the cutting edge of the state when it comes to CBE. I'm on the CAO listserv, and a lot of people are very interested in what we're doing. And so even ICCB had to kind of invent some new forms for approval because they didn't have a process in place yet.
Where do you go for that training?
It's virtual.
But who puts it on?
It's the
Like,
CBEN national organization. Yeah. So yeah, it's helpful. Oh, I will say though, we've made such progress that some of the training is boring because we've already done it. So that's a good sign, right? When you're a little bored at camp. Any other questions? Things slowed down a little bit in academic affairs for the summer. Faculty aren't on contract. So we get some of like the cleaning our offices and that kind of thing done. So it's nice too. Okay, thanks.
Well, I probably don't need as much time. We've talked a lot about operations already this evening, and I think you're going to hear from Gabe, who's on Zoom later, to talk about the updates with the policy mover team and HR. So I just want to give the board a quick update on the work we're doing with Interact Communications. So that work is underway. That was part of our rebrand and web redesign process. So we have started working with them on phase 1, which is really, I guess, is probably the quantitative research phase. So they're working there's a web satisfaction process inventory survey. They call it the WISPY survey. So if you come to the website right now, you might be asked to partake in that survey. We've sent it out to all of the team members and to students and any end user, and really just trying to gauge what the future iteration of the website might need to include, what's missing, what are the key features that we want to carry over. Interact is also conducting market review and analysis of our competitors. So they're looking at their marketing materials, their messages. That analysis is underway right now. And they're also doing an audit of our marketing materials as well. So we're hoping to get some information from them here before the start of fall. And in fall, we're going to start phase 2, which is really the qualitative analysis. They're going to start holding focus groups with some of our constituent groups to really kind of get their feedback about the Lewis and Clark brand as well as the website. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys an update on that. And any questions?
I have one, Lori.
Yeah.
You mentioned the web and it kind of set something off in my head. Do you know offhand if our insurance covers a ransomware attack that would involve extortion?
So that's a great question. And I don't know, I think it was right before Dr. Tresca got here last fall, you'll recall, we had an issue where we were hacked into, but Jeff Watson and Ron Wall had everything backed up. They shut everything down for a weekend. We were able to basically save everything. But yes, we do have coverage in our property casualty liability. There is an area for that, but it's a great question right now because it's become so common in this remote environment with people using the VPN to get onto the network. It just has really created a lot of concerns and a lot of problems for other colleges. So, but yes, we do have coverage for that. Probably going to get a little more expensive in future years. So any other questions? Sorry.
I just want to say, I remember when that happened, I remember thinking, what else could Lori have thrown out?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was
were-
last summer. But yeah, we survived that one. We have a really great system and great people. So thank you.
We don't have an IT one, so Mary, you're up with me. Okay, let's make it interesting. Do you want to do some IT updates?
No, I don't, but I can tell you a little bit more about that emergency project that Chris was talking about. We were still in Wade with the Erickson renovation when we received that communication that there was actually possibly, and in all likelihood, going to be deferred maintenance project that could be funded. So once we got up off the floor, we made some calls, talked to a woman by the name of Ellen, who was the CFO at ICCA at the time. And it's like, how do we put a project like this together? This was the first for me and the first for Chris, to actually maybe happen. So what she told us was to make our story really, really dire. And, in the sense of humor that CFOs sometimes have pretty dry, she's telling us that we need to write our story as if when it rains, the drainage is so bad in the parking lots that students are coming by, floating by our windows. So here we are 3 years later with this emergency project, and I've had to ask the bank to activate our dormant account with our match money at least twice. And today we finally have a meeting where this might actually go forward. So, we don't have a lot of excitement, but the idea of students floating by our windows and having to write something up that was, quite dire, we tried. So in finance, we're still living the out with the old and with the new motto. As of this morning, we're still looking at $1.8 million in fiscal year 21 encumbrances across all grants and programs. July 1 has started the purchasing cycle for fiscal year 22. As we finish summer and plan then for the fall semester, the authorization to request bids and proposals that was approved this evening are geared towards prepping classrooms and labs with upgrades as we start the next academic year. As mentioned last month, in conjunction with financial aid, we were planning for the disbursement of summer aid. Since the end of June, we've transmitted over $412,000 in summer financial aid and dispersed roughly $120,000 in allowable excess payments and refunds to students. And in keeping with the fiscal year transition theme, today's payroll covering the last half of June ran a little higher than usual due to the end of the fiscal year retirements and early retirement incentive payouts. At the same time, our payroll team is prepping for the salary increases that come with the new year and the coding updates that accompany benefit changes. So there's much routine work in the finance office to keep the college rolling. Does anyone have any questions?
How many people do you have in your group?
I think including our part-timers, I think we have 12 between purchasing, the bursar's office, and the finance. Or it might be 11. Our retirees show up for birthday parties. We used to need 13 if we had a table, but so.
I just never asked you that before. I just wondered.
Okay. Any other questions? That concludes my report.
Thanks, Mary. Next, we've got Dr. Hill.
Hello, everyone. So the areas that I work with are continuing to gear up for the fall semester and student activities. We are already working on our fall schedule. We've been in contact with our student activities president. Her name is Millie. She's a student who's going to be working with us this year. And we're happy to bring back some of our kind of signature events, particularly Fall Fest, which is a large outdoor event. Chairman Hine, that'll give you your barbecue on September 22nd. It's an outdoor event where we have our clubs involved. And then one of the events that we're also planning is something called Send Silence Packing. It's a large event that we're working with the campus chapter of Active Minds to bring. That'll be on September 15th or 16th. And if you can kind of picture this, there'll be backpacks laid around campus, hundreds of backpacks laid around campus, and each of these backpacks has a story of someone who has died by suicide. So it's a very powerful exhibit, and it's one of the things that we're trying to do on campus in order to increase awareness and sensitivity around issues of mental health. To connect with that, our new counselor started. Dr. Lane mentioned that, and the new counselor is going to be working along with me and then members of the mental health expert panel to try to increase various forms of mental health related programming on campus. And we're looking at things to do that increase the awareness of students and faculty, and also increase the awareness of who people can talk to and the different resources that are available to them in the community. Athletics, we're making our schedules, continuing to sign athletes, gathering information for bus bids. I'm sorry to say we recently lost our athletic trainer. He resigned for a job in far southwestern Missouri. And so we're posting that position very soon. In terms of club activities, the only club that's really active right now is the Veterans Club. So some of you may be aware that the Veterans Club hosted the KSHE Summer Blood Drive last week on campus, and they're also hosting another blood drive at the Old Bakery Beer Company on Wednesday, July 21st. And then the trio programs that I work with, Talent Search and Upward Bound. Talent Search is still waiting word on whether or not they have a grant. In terms of their renewal grant, we should be hearing any moment if they'll have a grant for another 5-year cycle. That grant serves 700 students. And then our Upward Bound program is actively going, and those students are currently in summer school and actually going to be finishing pretty quickly. So those are the things that I have to report on today. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
Just have two quick items I want to bring to your attention. The first one is we spoke in previous meetings about the switch in our advising model. We used to assign students by the zip code in which they resided to their advisor. And effective July 1, we have inverted that model completely, and we now assign students based on their program of instruction. So all of the nurses will be advised by the same nursing advisor, and everyone who's in welding will be advised by the same welding advisor. We really believe this will be an improvement to our students. This is, everyone will get a higher level of service and a better experience because of this. We just flipped it in our system on July 1st, so we're still working out a few kinks, but by and large, 99% of the stuff went smoothly, and we're working out the kinks as we move through July in anticipation of enrollment for August. Yes, ma'am.
And related to that, I remember when we did our campus visits and we talked to instructors and so forth. That'll be really good because those instructors will have one person that they can talk to in advising.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
work, hey, I know this guy is wavering, or I know this guy's having trouble in this. Can you talk to him? Just
Yep.
makes so much sense.
It kind of makes them more of an advising team rather than someone's just responsible for this. So we're
Right.
really hoping to really increase that relationship between program coordinators and the advisors themselves, trying to get the advisors out of the advising center maybe and more into programs of instruction out where they actually live, like maybe send someone over to this facility when they need to advise, welding students, for instance, as an example. So yeah, that is a goal of the program.
Are we somehow, and forgive me if you've told me this, tracking in retention then? Is that an element in our retention tracking?
Sure. Advising is one of the pieces, is one of the components. I'm not sure how we capture the flavor of the switch in the
Yeah.
program advising because it's just advising.
Be interesting to see, because I just think it would have an impact on somebody when they got somebody caring about them.
We will have it. Obviously, we'll have a date marker though. Advising as it occurred pre-July 1st and advising as it occurred post-July 1st. So we will have it. We'll have some indication. It might be a little harder to tease the fine points of it out, but yes, definitely so. The only other thing I wanted to make you all aware of is our focus this summer on, from the enrollments perspective, of the new student orientation process. Since graduation, we've had two teams working on the new student orientation process. One kind of focusing on the process itself, how we get students into the new student orientations, how we get them credentials, how we get them, where they need to be when they need to be there. And then the other component is actually the content itself. So both teams are large groups of people from across campus that are coming together to really address those two issues. So we're making really good headway over the summer. Any questions about that?
I had a question.
Sure.
A lot of the students I'm with for the last semester still haven't been around campus. They still don't know all of our programs. Will there be an option for previous students? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The whole goal, the whole intent is to kind of flip the program. Instead of having one session that you show up and attend and say, yes, I did it. It's really going to become to build a resource that's available to students their entire career with Lewis and Clark. So yes, there's an initial interaction with some sort of a presentation and people, but also there's pointing to resources that are going to be available through Blackboard on a continuous basis for as long as you're enrolled as a student. So you can connect with people, but you can also connect and self-instruct with resources that are available. That's the outcome we're hoping for. Thank you.
Hey, Brett, I have a question. I'm not sure exactly why. I'm curious about this, but I know, some students are with us for a semester, some with 2 semesters, some 3 years, some 5 years, I suppose. What is there like an average? What's the average length of time that a student is with us, would you say?
That is a really, really good question, but I'm not sure. Yeah. Not only are they here for different amounts of times, there's different types of students. There's traditional age students who are coming to finish credits with the intention of transfer. There's people who are coming back for specific skills. There's older non-traditional age students that are coming for career change. That would be a number we could probably get, but I would hesitate to even hazard a guess at this point because the population is so varied. We might be better off thinking about this kind of on my feet here. I wonder if we wouldn't be better off looking at an average by type of student or by age group.
I was probably automatically thinking about a transfer student would be, all the other, there's a lot of other.
Or even by program.
Different variety
Yeah,
of
maybe by
students.
program would be a useful way to look at it, or by age band, or, there's any number of ways we could slice it, but, I would hesitate to issue a guess because that would be, it could be really there's probably a big range.
The IPEDS data looks at 150% time, so 3 years worth of
Right.
time.
Right. Dr. Elaine's pointing out is that IPEDS data, and we're obliged to report that to ICCB, and ICCB turns around and reports that to the feds for us. by standard looks at completion data and retention data on a time and a half a metric. So 3 years for us is the standard figure that we're compared to from an IPEDS perspective, and all community colleges are, because that's time and a half. Oh yeah, yeah, and we know our retention and completion rates based against our peer group, our IPEDS peer group, are higher than our peers. That's a good point. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Dr. Warner.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to actually see you and not through a camera. So great to be here. Dr. Rolfe, I believe, is connecting via Zoom tonight, but could not be present. So it's just a great opportunity for me to tell you hello. There are lots of things going on in NGRC as well as the rest of our enterprise. Just to sample a couple of those things. The Swarovski family grant, our North America Water School is back in place. We had a 1-week water school around July 6th. We have another week, and these are 5th to 6th graders that spend a week learning about the natural aspects of streams and waters, but also cultural aspects and connecting with those water schools in other places in the world. So that's a really great experience for those students. We're starting to get in person as well. We've had an active internship program this summer. Next week, our Neighbors Night is now back in person and hybrid with Zoom, and our interns will be very present and active in that. That's exciting. We're winding down our current phase of work with the Walton Family Foundation, which is important to us, and we have a verbal commitment to start another phase of work with them this fall. And then finally, I'll just mention, and I know that Gary has said this as well, but it's a really big deal that the state appropriation and the legislators have amped up our budget from 2 million to 4 million. And I know that Gary is going to be talking more with the executive committee later in July about how we have communicated with legislators about that, what it does for us, how we're going to go about doing this. And it's something that you will all be hearing more about and have a chance to talk about as well. So that's really all I wanted to say tonight, unless there are other questions or comments that I can entertain.
I want to make sure I understood what you said. From 2 million to 4 million?
Exactly.
Okay.
So just a little bit more history on that, Kevin. And there are a couple of subtleties here that turn out to be very important. We, many years ago, less than 10 years ago, but many years ago, got to a 1 million mark in our appropriation. It was coming out of basically general education funds. It went to the U of I and then here. We had some struggles with state budget problems. A year or two, we got no money. But every year that happened, it was put in at the very last minute by a legislator. It has never made the governor's budget until this year. This is the first time it was in the governor's budget for 2 million. And another significant part of that is that starting a couple of years ago, this moved from the education fund to a clean water fund that is much more appropriate, frankly, for NGRC. And it's something that causes us to not be competing for, general appropriation funds. It suits us well. And so this appropriation is coming from that clean water fund. So we were able, because we started at 2 million, to pick up and start conversing about increasing that. So yeah, you heard correctly. We're still wondering if we're hearing correctly, but yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's good to see you. And I think Gabe is on for.
Can everyone hear me? Is my mug up on the screen yet?
You are, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you all for allowing me to join by Zoom tonight. Just to make a quick comment about something Brett had said about, the advisors being switched over from alphabetical to actually content focus. I was actually on the website today and that change had already been made. It's very clear when you go on to the advising page, what advisor you're going to be getting for what content area. So, kudos to your team, Brett, and to the folks that put together the website as well. I thought it looked very well. So I'm here tonight just to provide a quick update on the mover team that I put together at Dr. Traska's request back at the end of March that initially was set out with a goal of developing a policy for summer schedule, which started at the end of March. We worked through April into the beginning of May before we then presented that policy to you, the board, in May. I'm happy to report, really, we've gotten a lot of great feedback from just a cultural perspective and kind of, back to our hardworking team during the summer. So a lot of good feedback there. We're going to take a look at the policy after everything closes out at the end of the summer, get some feedback from the team and see if there are ways we can, enhance that efficiency and make it even better procedurally and or for the employees going forward. So I want to recognize that team, though, the team that put together that policy and help with kind of the nuts and bolts again here at this meeting. Terry Austin, who was previously in our adult ed department, is now the college's faculty counselor. Lori Artis, vice president of administration. Caitlin Heinrichs, who's an assistant director in our financial aid department. Terry Kanalikin, administrative assistant in the vice president of academic affairs office. Cody Zittman from our maintenance team, and Sean Koppel from our director, who is our director of enterprise application services in our IT department. So talking about, our next steps, what we want to do next with that team, first step is I want to look to expand that group to include Dr. T, some additional membership within the leadership team, and several other team members across campus to represent an even broader footprint of our full team. So looking to add some folks from the NGREC division, from some of our satellite campuses, to look at a formal remote work policy. It's something we've been talking about for a bit, something I've done plenty of research on, and I know others are definitely interested in getting involved and kind of putting the nuts and bolts together there. So we have a plan, and Dr. T and I have been talking at some length on this, of putting together a timeline for that so we can ensure that we're covering all parts of campus, that we can deliver ultimately a formal remote work policy that will affect and, kind of put down policy that everybody, all team members, will be able to abide by and will be easy to manage. So we want to get together at the end of this month, the end of July, for our first meeting. We have that scheduled. And that's really to just establish the pillars of the plan. So what are the primary pillars of that plan? And from that point, we then want to seek out guidance from all of those team members that are going to be on that committee, as well as input from the full team before ultimately bringing a full policy to you, the board, sometime this fall. So we don't have a defined date. I think, early on, we were hoping that we kind of put something together this fall. Dr. T and I on multiple occasions trying to figure out what the best way to do that is. And I think, certainly a team approach is one we want to continue to use, and using this mover team as kind of the first point of contact is something we've talked about doing. But we, as I mentioned earlier, we want to get an even broader base of folks from the team to help out there. So I'm happy to take any questions on that. But I also, as Lori had mentioned, I want to give the board an update just on kind of where we're at relative to our human resources postings for vacancies and new positions that may have been created as part of the reorg effort. So over the past several months, we've had more than 30 vacancies that have been posted. Some of those have just been simple replacement positions from, positions that have been vacated due to retirement or early retirement. Others have been part of that reorganizational effort representing new positions that we've had to put out there. So of those, more than 30 positions we've had out in the past, 90 plus days, I guess, we have filled 8 of those vacancies or 8 of those positions. And as of today, we have about 23 positions that are either posted or awaiting posting. 12 of those right now are at the interview or selection stage. So 12 of those we hope with that timeline should be wrapped up in the next 10 to 14 days, but still a lot out there and a lot keeping my office pretty busy. So happy to take any questions either about the reorg or about the development of the formal remote work policy.
Gabe, how many people do you have in your office?
Right. So right now, I have 2 full-time specialists and 1 part-time coordinator, and then myself. There is also 1 additional specialist who that position will be reduced at in the middle of August. So 2 open positions, Julie. We as part of the reorganizational effort, we posted for an HR assistant position and an entry-level HR manager. Both of those positions are at the selection phase. We've finished the interview of both of those positions. So in a perfect world, we will bring on those 2 positions at the August meeting. So we'll look then to have a total of, that'll be 2 specialists, an assistant, entry-level manager, myself, and a part-time. So 5.5 total headcount at that point.
I just wondered if you had enough people to, do all this hiring and keep track of it all.
Yeah, right now, the way we're put together before the reorg, a lot of this, this work really falls on primarily 2 people in our office, and that's our specialist who handles kind of recruiting and onboarding, and then myself. So Marsha Logan in our office has been incredibly overloaded, but incredibly patient. And I think once we go through the reorg, we've got a system that's going to help to kind of, take care of some of that coverage a little bit more efficiently. So, but thank you for the question. Anything else?
Thank you, Gabe.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes the agenda for the day. So we declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, everyone.